I created this full 8 hours in-depth database course. People were like, cool. Don't care about databases. Tell me how you made these videos.
Aaron is a software developer, content creator, and co-founder of Try Hard Studios.
Show me how you record. How do you plan? How do you outline? I was like, God, is that you? Is the market speaking to me?
We're going to be chatting with Aaron Francis about how to utilize screencasting to draw in new audiences and maximize the potential of your product among your current users. Why screencasting and video in general is a valuable channel, how to create top of funnel content, and finally, if you do decide to make a video, where you should start and how long you should commit to that channel before evaluating if it really works for you and your business.
Wrapped up in the medium of screencasting is a lot of educational theory so that you're bringing that person along and respecting their time and not like leaving them in the dust or telling them too much at once.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Plugin.fm, where we extract key lessons from top entrepreneurs to inspire your business growth. My name is Patrick Rolland. I'm an e-commerce expert and educator, and I'm here with my co-host, Goran Mirkovic, a content marketing specialist and the CMO at Freemius. Let's go ahead and get into the episode. Welcome to the show, Aaron.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We should say screencasting a lot in this episode, so I'm very excited to be here. I'm excited to dig in.
Awesome. Yes, we need like a running counter through the episode of how many times we say screencasting, because it'll probably be a lot. Let me start with Aaron. Why is screencasting important? Why is what you do important?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it actually has become more important in the past maybe 1 or 2 or 3 years. So I think there's there's kind of like a content pyramid of like the abundance of content out there. And at the very bottom is just people that don't do anything, right? People that just consume content online. Totally fine, no moral judgment, but that is the majority of the internet, is people that just consume, and that's great. Mm-hmm. Right above that, you've got like very, very low effort, easy content to create, which would be like firing off a tweet, a post on Blue Sky, something like that. And you start to move up to long form, like blog posts, right? It takes a little bit more effort. You have to like put in a little bit more time and energy. You move all the way up to the very top, and you've got video where you're showing your face on the internet, and that like. It's not necessarily that is the hardest kind of content to create. I think it is somewhat hard to create, but it is maybe the scariest content to create because you're putting yourself, like you're putting your face out there on the internet to strangers. You're exposing your personality. And so at the top of this pyramid, there are fewer people creating that type of content because it is hard, because it is scary, which means if you are willing to if you're willing to bite off that fear, the competition is way less, right? So now at this point, AI is writing all of our blog posts. Maybe in the future, AI is creating screencasts of me. I will fight against that because I think it is a very personal medium. But I think at that very top, like you're able to communicate a personality to the audience where it is much harder through written content and almost even harder through like short form written content. But when you're on camera teaching something to somebody, you get to share a part of your personality, and that has become way more valuable as people are looking for like actual interpersonal connections. Sharing that through video is very valuable, I think.
I love that. Goran, do you have a question?
Yeah. I know that like you said that everyone is basically creating now content with AI, especially blog posts, and like the information is omnipresent on almost every topic. But I feel now that, you are just as a consumer, as you said, like at the bottom, you are basically picking a curator. And in addition to knowledge, do you feel that actually personality that you like put into the world and like can actually help like people select you because the way you look, the way you talk, and not just solely because of the content?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another reason I think, so I have several points of view on screencasting. One of them is show your face as often as possible because people want to connect with other people. And I am not the world's foremost expert on screencasting. I do have a lot of opinions, right? I have a lot of opinions. I have points of view. I have styles and like I have a certain taste on how I create things. And I have had to come to terms with the fact that some people will follow me or buy my courses or listen to my podcasts just because they like me. And that's very uncomfortable for me. I'm like, no, the craft, think about like the thing that we're creating. And, you know, for example, I teach a lot of courses on databases, and I'll say like, hey, here are all of the possibilities. Here's everything you need to know. Here's all of the nuance. And people will be like, that's great. What should I do? You tell me what I should do. And I'm like, I just gave you all of the information in the world, and you still want me to just give you my opinion? And so you're right. I think there's a huge part of being on video where I have had to learn to lean into, I'm going to tell you as much like objective truth as I can, but I'm also going to tell you my opinions and the way that I like to do things, because it turns out people are coming to me, like you said, for that curation aspect of, yeah, sure, whatever. How does Aaron do it? How do you do screencasts? And I'm like, oh, I am the world's foremost expert on how I do screencasts. And that is what the people want. But that also gives me a lot of confidence in just like fully owning my opinions, because I can say, these are my opinions, here they are. And then I don't have to like waffle and say like, oh, but sometimes like other people say this. I'm like, that's fine. You're here to learn from me. And that gives me confidence. And it turns out that's what people want, is like, give me the answer, not like all of the information.
Yeah, I can relate to that. So like a decade ago when I started to like do any sort of marketing, I first had like a film blog. I used to write about movies, right? And even do some videos. And I think this is like a perfect example because, you know, I am not an expert. Like I'm just a fan, but I had a very big audience, people who just were interested in my opinion. Right. And I think like that kind of like leans into it. You could like obviously need to know about something for people to pay attention. But in the end, I think like, you know, they just pick you for, you know, a specific reason. Maybe like the way you think, what you say you like, what say you don't like. And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, using that film analogy, people like certain directors. And it's not to say that like, you know, one director is objectively better than another. I mean, for goodness sakes, like people argue about this on sports all the time. It's not an industry, not like a area of the conversation that I'm involved in, but people are like LeBron or MJ. And you know what it comes down to? The person that you like the most. That's what it really comes down to, is who do you like the most? Do you like LeBron or do you like Michael Jordan? And that's the same kind of thing when it comes to creating content. It's like, hey, both of these people are objectively good. Just pick the one you like and move forward with that. And I think that is something that like I have had to internalize, is that is a reality that is at play.
So let's just see if I can summarize this. So part of the reason for screencasting is it's hard for AI to replicate and reproduce, and it's sort of this hard to create content. It also is a really nice way of communicating your personality, which is just it's hard to communicate in a blog post. It kind of works if someone has already heard you speak, but generally it's hard to communicate. But then also for the consumer, correct me if I guess we didn't touch on what, like, just other than your personality, I guess I feel like screencasting is like the most refined video, right? It's like, let me show you the exact thing you want to do in as few steps as possible, and sometimes in just a couple seconds. That's kind of the benefit to the consumer, right? Is that the last sort of piece there?
Yeah. So from the point of view of the consumer, I think you're correct to highlight screencasting versus something like, let's say, live streaming. So live streaming, a lot of fun, still on video, still personality, but boy, do you just like get super distracted, and the information density is incredibly low with live streaming, which is not to say it doesn't serve a purpose. I do live streaming. It's a lot of fun, but it is very different than screencasting. So my point of view on screencasting for the consumer is like one of my guiding principles is I will retake a video 5 or 10 times if I have to, until I feel like it is respectful of the user's time, right? So if I'm taking a video, a lot of what I do is coding videos. If I'm doing a video and I run into a bug or I get lost in a rabbit hole, and then I look up and I think, boy, this video is 14 minutes long. I could redo this and it would be 4 minutes long. I redo the video because part of the pitch and part of what I'm selling, in the case where I'm selling, oftentimes it's just on YouTube, but like part of like what I am giving to the audience is hopefully a super high information density, hopefully a little bit of serendipitous learning as well. And I think that's one of the great things about screencasting is like, you're going to watch me do the thing. And as I do the thing, I'm going to be like existing in my current, universe, which is like hotkeys and IDE shortcuts and little tools and little like turns of phrase and tricks and stuff like that. And that's the kind of stuff that like, if you go to ChatGPT, which I think is wonderful, I don't have a problem with LLMs, but if you go to ChatGPT and you ask a question, you get, sometimes an answer. Most of the time it's right, but you don't see like, how does a seasoned developer navigate their IDE or navigate their terminal, or like what are the little intermediate things that a developer does before they reach the final state, and how can I use that kind of like that learning path to get to where I'm going. And so I try to condense, like, if even to my own hurt, I will retake a video just to make it better. And then another thing that I think is very important for the consumer is that I don't hold their hand, but I stair step them into where we're headed, right? So I could say like, in a single video, I could introduce a concept, show them like kind of how to do it, then show them how to do it better, and then show them. And it's like you can fit 6 things into a video. My opinion is if they are learning from scratch, you introduce the concept and show them the most basic way to do it, even if there's an optimization that you're going to show them in another video. But you can't go like you can't jump straight to like, all right, here's the concept and here's how you might do it, but that's bad. Like, I haven't even gotten the concept yet.
Yes.
I don't even know what we're talking about. So show me the thing, like land that plane, and then let's go on to, now that you understand like how to do this thing, let's take a look at some different implementations that might be better. And so that, I think a lot of like, wrapped up in the medium of screencasting is a lot of like educational theory that I think you really need to like hone in on, so that you're bringing that person along and respecting their time and not like leaving them in the dust or telling them too much at once.
Love that. And I really like taking people along one step at a time. And I think the other thing you said is, like, if I ask ChatGPT a question, it'll respond, and 95% of the time it's correct or whatever, but it doesn't answer like sub questions. If I'm like, how do I test that my website's working? A screencasting software might say, also, we use this, I don't know, Rapid API client, and it tests database or, REST API connections, whatever. A human will do that, but ChatGPT will not say, by the way, there's this one extra thing that you could do that's really, really helpful. So I love that perspective. Let me get into the background here. How did you start with screencasting, and how is it your current business?
Yeah, this is a circuitous route. So buckle up. I came out of college with a master's degree in accounting and went to work at an accounting firm, and realized very quickly that accounting, at least public accounting, I was at one of the big 4 firms. Accounting's terrible. It's just not fun at all. It's awful. And in school, it was completely different. I loved it. I loved it so much in school. It was so fun. It was like, complicated puzzles with, easy to intermediate math. Like, the math isn't super hard, but you have all these rules and you're like trying to piece them together and figure out, how do I make these 2 sides balance? Incredibly interesting. And then you go out and you work at a firm and you're doing other people's taxes and you're like, hang on, this sucks. I don't want to do this. And so I remembered, I quickly left the firm and got into like professional programming. And I remembered, a few years out of college, how much I loved Introduction to Financial Accounting. This was like the language of business, puzzles everywhere, so freaking fun. I tutored, like I took that class as a sophomore, and then I tutored it for the next 3 or 4 years while I was there, and I just loved it. And so I thought, you know what? I'm a man of the internet. I see people making money on the internet. I have a skill, and my skill is I'm very good at teaching accounting, honed through years of in-person tutoring. And so I thought, why not? Let's give it a go. Let's pick the worst market in the world, which is sophomores in college. They have no money. And let's make a video course for sophomores in college taking one specific class. So if you think your idea is too niche, it might not be too niche. And so I recorded an entire course on Introduction to Financial Accounting for sophomores at Texas A&M University. And I recorded the entire video course, made a website, charged money for it, put it up online. And then in the most humiliating experience of my life, I drove down, which is 3 hours away. I drove down to Texas A&M, put on a backpack, pretended like I was a student. I did not look like a student. I was 26 at this point. Put on a backpack, walked into the business school and handed out flyers that was like, go to my tutoring website. And I was like, what am I doing? You're a grown man. This is so embarrassing. But it worked, right? It worked. People started to visit it. They started to tell their friends. And I at this point, it's been alive for, it's been alive for maybe 8 years now. I stopped charging for it 2 or 3 years ago because the payment integration broke, and I was like, I don't have time to fix this. But before I stopped charging for it, it made $100,000 over 5 years or something. And that's not enough money. It's not enough money to live on, but $20,000 a year. That's pretty great. That let my wife quit her job because she was working some job where she made, $32,000. And it was like, hey, we can put these things together and you can go figure out what you want to do with your life. And it was life-changing. And so that was the entry into proper screencasting as courses. And then I went, many, many years later. So a few years ago, I went and worked at a database company, and that's an area that of expertise of mine. And I created this full database course. It's 8 hours in-depth database course. We released it for free as a marketing asset for this company. And it was the best marketing thing that the company has ever done and still has ever done. Brought in just many, many, many thousands of people signing up for the product. And that was the point where people were like, cool. Databases, don't care about databases. Tell me how you made these videos. Show me your process. Show me how you record. How do you plan? How do you outline? And at that point, that was one of those moments that I was like, is this the market? God, is that you? Is the market speaking to me? And so I realized, wait, I can teach something else here. And what I can teach is the meta of how I record, how I plan, how I edit, how I produce these screencasts. And so from accounting to databases to screencasts, that's how we got here today.
I think that's awesome. I can share some points of your story because I have a degree in finance and banking. And it took me one day at a job, at a bank, to be nope, literally everything else. And then as you said, internet is here to save me. I try to do what I know to do. And basically that's how I ended up in marketing. But let's say that you were starting this all over again. Obviously you wouldn't put on a backpack and share flyers, even though I think you look really young, which is awesome. But what would be the strategy now?
Yeah, strategy now would be probably, if you're trying to gain an audience, grow mind share, get recognition, have people find you, I would probably start with YouTube. YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world, and I would hone my craft on YouTube because you get immediate feedback. Yes, through comments, but more through, the almighty algorithm.
It's easy to make a video that no one watches. And lots of companies do this. They think they're creating value, but only 10 people watch the video. Aaron has some guidance for companies that want to make video content, assuming you actually want real humans to watch your videos. That's coming up in a minute.
And the algorithm on YouTube is it's way less pernicious than I think what we've seen the algorithm on Twitter turn into. I think the algorithm on Twitter has turned into like what incites the most rage in people. And that really makes me sad. And so I think the algorithm on YouTube is what are people watching? And so you can just always replace algorithm with people when you're talking about YouTube. Oh, the algorithm didn't like it. Well, maybe the people didn't like it. And like what can we learn? What can we learn from that? Is it packaging? And I think this is like for a purist, for like a pure educator, the packaging aspect of YouTube can be really difficult to come to terms with, because you as the pure educator think there is no way I'm going to make a silly face for a thumbnail. And like to some extent I agree with that. Like that seems like a reasonable boundary to draw. But my point of view is you should have your things that you don't compromise on. And maybe doing a shocked thumbnail where you're like, I can't believe that databases work. Like maybe that's too far for you. That's great. I love that. What you can't like the line that you do have to like come to terms with is, how do I make my content compelling to an audience? And that's a pretty hard thing to figure out, but that is the thing that you have to figure out. And so if you have certain areas that you will not cross, which is like clickbait, I fully support that. I think you should not do clickbait. Then you're left in this world of, great, I've made a quality piece of education, or perhaps infotainment. Maybe it's some education, maybe it's some fun. How do I tell the world? How do I show the world this thing is interesting, please click on it? And then once they click on it, how do I tell them this is interesting, please keep watching? And that is a good practice to go through, even if it is frustrating. And you're like, the thing I made is good. Why don't people understand that? And therein lies the entirety of marketing, is you have to get people to understand that the thing you made is good. Making a good thing is very hard, but it is also unfortunately half the battle. The other half is getting people to understand from the outside the thing that you made is good. And so I would probably spend a lot of time recording and publishing on YouTube, and just kind of getting punched in the face over and over and over until you figure out, like, how do I communicate this effectively?
I assume you haven't been following us all season, but the whole theme of our season is that marketing is just really hard. It's you can make an incredible product and people still will not know that you exist. Like you really, really have to get out there, and you even have to do marketing for your marketing assets, right? It's like,
yes,
we built this video course to tell people about our product. Okay, but no one's watching the video course. Okay, I guess we need to make, let's experiment with some silly thumbnails that have the little shock face. It's really, really hard to get people's attention, right? We live in this attention economy. It's really hard to get people to click your first video. Actually, maybe that's a good place to start. Do you find that once people know who you are, they keep coming back? Is it really getting someone the first time to watch one of your videos and then they know who you are, they click it and stuff like that? Or are there other marketing challenges that are bigger and more important?
Yeah, I'll answer that from two perspectives. The first is YouTube. And I think the answer for YouTube is not as encouraging as the answer for the rest of life. So I think on YouTube, there is some portion that will watch one of my videos and be like, I like this guy. I'll give him a pass on the next many videos. I'll just watch whatever he puts out. I think that is much smaller on YouTube than it is in the rest of the world. So on YouTube, I think you can grow, you can kind of grow this parasocial engagement, this audience, this like, you watch me, and like I have that with other creators that have never heard my name. There's this channel called the Perkins Builder Brothers. There's these two brothers in North Carolina that build houses. Every freaking Sunday afternoon, I watch their latest video because I love the Perkins Builder Brothers. I have no plans to build a house, but I'm going to watch every video that they put out. So that does exist. And I think the lesson to take from that is lean into your personality. Don't try to be somebody else. I'm not trying to be the Perkins Builder Brothers. I'm not trying to be the Primeagen, which is a big streamer. I'm trying to be myself, but more. And I think that's a hard thing for traditionally people who are introverted, which is a lot of developers like myself, very introverted. But like, I have to take what is my personality and not change it, but I do have to amp it up to maybe 110%. Because what happens is on camera, you get a little bit nervous and then the camera does a thing and you kind of like, you close down a little bit. And so on video, if you're coming across as like, if in person you're 110, 120%, on video, you're coming across as like just even Steven. That's just a normal guy. But if you don't like get in your head and kind of amp up your energy before the video, you come across as very tired or very depressed. Yeah. And I think this is easier for Americans than it is for Europeans, because Americans are normally very loud already and Europeans are very thoughtful and considered. And so like, I have taught a bunch of people to do this, and people have said like, that's a very American thing to say. And I'm like, you know what? That is a good point. We are quite loud, but I think that is important to like express yourself fully on video. So that's on the YouTube side. On the rest of the world side, I have 100% found that people will buy courses just because I put it out. I have gone to conferences and met people and they've said, hey, let me buy you a beer. And I'm like, that's great. Why? And they're like, I bought all your courses. I haven't watched a single one. And I'm like, you bought all my courses. You're buying me a beer. What is going on here? And it's just that like they have come to know, like, and trust me. They just think that I'm like, they just think that I am a force for good, teaching something, like encouraging people. And that is very much like who I am. And so we talk about like amping up personality, like online. I try to be a positive encouragement, force for good, not cynical, sincere, tell people how I feel. And I think people like latch on to that. And so across Twitter and podcasts and YouTube and newsletter, like there is a contingent of people that have come to know me through video and or audio and just like support me kind of as like a patron. Like they're just like, hey, you're doing good work. I have some company money. Let me buy your courses and then I'll buy you a beer when you're here. So yeah, I think that is very, very important that you like express that personality so that people can kind of latch onto it. And it's not going to be for everyone, but that's the whole thing, is you have to be yourself and then you'll attract people that are kind of like-minded to you.
This is very interesting. I'll go back to my experience, like writing about film and like filming some videos about like movies that I liked. I had people who actually supported me that were like really, really, really against my taste, right? They hated what I, put out, like what I said as a recommendation, but they love debating with me, like really respectfully, if I'm being honest. But like, when I stopped doing this, they kept like sending me emails like, are you going to pick it up? Because like they were really interested in actually debating with someone, because I think of personality, they like saw me as like a potential figure. But this kind of leans into a next thing. Do you feel it's possible now, like with everything that you said, that like personality is such a big factor for like anyone doing marketing to ignore video?
I'm loath to make absolute proclamations on anything, so I am sure that it is entirely possible to ignore video. I think that is very possible. That is not the strategy that I would choose. And I think there's a little bit of a tricky there's like a strategic thing that companies have to figure out, because this entire time the three of us have been talking, or I've been talking at you about how humans like to connect with humans, right? Mm-hmm. And so from the perspective of, let's say I'm a company, 50 to 100 people, and I'm trying to make videos so that other people will come and like use our product. It's very, very easy for a company to make corporate videos that nobody cares about. Like that's pretty straightforward. You just like host a webinar and then record it and put it on YouTube. And you know who watches that? Nobody freaking watches your recorded webinars. So I think there's like a real challenge for a company of, are we going to anoint a person to speak on our behalf and become kind of like the personality, the public facing personality of our company? And I think I think that can super work, but it is of course a risk because you're putting a lot of you're giving this person a voice and you're giving them credibility, and then they could just leave. And so that is difficult, but I think it is still very, very worth it, especially if you have a person on the founding team that is that is likable. If you have somebody on the founding team that is like a little bit funny and a little bit like casual and breezy and can record some videos, that person's probably going to stay forever because they're on the founding team. They know the company inside and out, and they're like decent on video. I would take somebody who has a point of view and a personality that is like a 6 out of 10 on video than somebody that is like a hired gun and a 10 out of 10 on video. So I want somebody that's like authentic and real, because I, of course, take a lot of pride in making very good videos, but the crux of the whole thing is the person on the video. And so I think companies to their own detriment think, oh, video's good, we've got webinars. And it's like, oh, brother, you missed it. You missed the whole point. So yes, I think companies can ignore video. I don't think they should. But when they do go into video, I think they need to be thoughtful about it and consider either who or what small team. You could have a cast of characters. You could have 2, 3, 4 people that are like familiar to the channel, and people start to grow to like love their favorite characters. But you really have to be thoughtful about who you're putting out as the voice of your company.
This kind of ties into your tagline, is videos developers want to watch. There's just, it's so far the top takeaway I'm getting from you is you have to care about what, if people actually think your stuff is good and what they like about it, and then give them more of that. So like what are the things, what are some of your best practices? What are some of your rules to make interesting videos that, in this case, developers want to watch?
Yeah, so a lot of the work we do is in the development space, like I said. So, we've done on my YouTube channel, I do a lot of videos about a PHP framework, open source framework called Laravel. The courses we've done so far have been on a database called SQLite and a database called Postgres. The course I did at the old company was a database called MySQL. And so we make a ton of videos for developers. Last year, I think I recorded 250, 300 videos for developers. And so it's like, holy crap, we're doing a lot of video for developers. So I think there are, let's say there's like a technical aspect of it, and that is like the art and craft of screencasting. And then there's like the kind of like the soft squishy side of like even like outlining and what you're going to cover, and then personality and energy and that kind of stuff. So on the technical side, that is a lot easier. It's a lot more cut and dry. And I cover a bunch of this in the actual meta course, but I'll tell all of it to you right now. You need to have some empathy. Like, you need to have some gosh dang empathy for the person watching the video. And you need to understand everything else in the world is vying for this person's attention while they are watching your video. Literally everything else is like, hey, don't watch that video. Look at me instead. And so starting with that is kind of like a baseline. If that is true, which I think it is, if that is true, what does that mean? Well, that means you should hide your doc. You should hide your status bar. You don't need people looking at your picture of your favorite anime character as your desktop wallpaper. You don't need people knowing that it's 10:30 at night and you're recording this super late at night, because then they're thinking, oh, this guy's up late at night. I wonder, like, what's his real job? Is he not a professional? What's going on here? When you open your editor, you need to hide literally everything that is not relevant to the thing that you are teaching. Because the moment you show old failing tests or the file tree or whatever, people are like, I wonder what's going on over there. Well, I don't know. I'm distracted. Let me look at Twitter now. And it's like, you have them. You have them. You have to keep them. And so like the baseline truth that I think people need to internalize is you have to be empathetic for the viewer. And so that expands, in a multitude of directions, one of which is like, keep your screen focused on the thing you're doing. Make the text big. Make the turn off all alerts. You don't want to be distracted. You don't want them being distracted. That also extends to kind of what we talked about earlier, which is like coming up with the curriculum, right? So switching over to kind of a little bit of the soft side, like coming up with the curriculum. you have to realize that whether you're comfortable with it or not, you are a sort of expert. You may not feel like the world's foremost expert. That's fine. I don't encourage people to hold themselves out as the world's foremost expert. I think that is foolish. But you are an expert, especially to the person that's watching your video, right? You are the teacher. And you need to be really careful that you are like caring for that person in their learning journey and saying like, it's kind of like it's like a spectrum, and you have to kind of like hit it right in the middle. You don't want to over sell or like over explain something that they probably already know, but you don't want to just breeze past, you know, a concept or an acronym or whatever. And so you got to kind of find that line of how can I distill a single lesson down to something that is consumable. And I think aiming for 4 to 7 minutes on a single video is probably ideal. Because if I look at a video and it's like, this is a 28-minute video on database indexes, ain't nobody got time for that. Like, I'm so exhausted just thinking about watching 28 minutes of database indexing. And whether that is right or wrong and what that says about society is an open question that is fun to debate. But whether it is reality is not really an open question. Like, people want shorter content. They want it to be punchier and they want like bite-sized stuff. And so we can rail against like, how did we get here as a society? Very interesting. Or we can say, let me just make my videos a little shorter. Instead of making a 28-minute video, let me make, 6 videos that are 5 minutes, and we can land a point each time. And so, what do developers want to watch? They want to watch something that is like respectful of their time, that is clean, that is produced. But again, that's like that's kind of like the base, like that's like table stakes, right? That's the bar you have to overcome. I think like once you get past these like entry level concerns of just don't have a million things on your screen, then you're like, what is human nature? And I think human nature is we are drawn to people that are like passionate. Right? We're drawn to people. We want to watch people, do things that they super care about. Why do I watch the Perkins Builder Brothers? Because they love what they do and they have a lot of fun doing it. And like, yeah, they're good carpenters. What do I know? I'm not a carpenter. I have no freaking clue. But I like them because they're having fun. They care about their craft. Like, they're showing me these tips and tricks that I'm like, oh, that's really clever. You guys like know what you're doing. And so from the perspective of like, bringing it back to developers, what do developers want to watch? They want to watch a developer do something that they care about, do something cool, like actually like write some code and then be like, yes, wasn't that awesome? Like, that freaking worked. That is like, people want to like, they want that in their own lives. They want to be excited about their own lives. And so when they watch video and they see somebody that's like excited about what they're doing, they feel like they're getting that in their own life. And I feel like that's what, like, it's just basic human nature. And so that brings it back to business. We've had a lot of companies contact us and be like, hey, will you make a course on our product? Or will you do videos, about our product? And I'm like, no, I won't. I don't care about it. Like, I don't know your product, which is already disingenuous to like go out there and teach it, because I'm like, y'all, I've never used MongoDB in my entire life. What am I going to say about it? I'm just going to like regurgitate talking points. I don't have anything to say. But more than that, like, I'm not excited about it. I don't find it interesting. So you may look at my portfolio, my life, and be like, accounting, databases, screencasting. What is this guy on about? This guy is on about like things that I have found interesting in my life. I don't teach taxes. I teach introduction to financial accounting because it was awesome and I freaking loved it. And so there's this irreplaceable aspect. Once you learn the technical concepts, you just have to like do things that you care about. And that's hard, but there's a huge benefit in that if you care about things that nobody else cares about. Because if you care about really weird, esoteric stuff, and you get out there and you're like, y'all, this is weird and esoteric, look how freaking cool it is, people are going to be like, he's the only one talking about that. How interesting. I have no desire to learn what he is doing, but I'm going to watch those videos because he's a wild man and he loves what he's doing. And so there's a huge aspect of we make videos that developers want to watch. That is, I make videos that I'm excited about. That's like the subtext of it.
This is all fantastic. This is a good time for me to bring up. I make some courses on LinkedIn Learning, formerly lynda.com. So I made I've made a bunch of courses and videos. What's interesting is a lot of the things you said are some of the best practices for their videos. It's 4 to 7 minutes.
Oh, really?
You always you yeah. I think for a little bit of time we tried pushing 10, and it's like, no, let's come back to like 4 to 7 minutes. We turn off the clocks. We turn off everything on the screen that is not relevant to what you're trying to teach the learner, because it's just distracting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think one thing that is different. I don't think I've heard them talk about being excited or energetic. Maybe that's just the producers I've worked with or what have you. But I really like that addition to that. Just be excited about what the developer is trying to learn, but hiding everything 4 to 7 minutes. Let me ask one other follow-up here. I feel like doing a little bit of research for this episode, maybe this is just your style, but I feel like you make lots of jokes and you have a sense of humor that you try to incorporate into both your social media and maybe also a little bit your courses. Is that just your brand, or is that, trying to get interest and attention and part of that attention economy thing?
Yeah. So this is an interesting question. So my point of view, and it's almost like a moral stipulation of mine, is I don't think it is right to pretend to be something else online just for likes or clicks or views or something like that. I don't think it is a good way to live, to bifurcate yourself and be like, I'm like this in person, but online I do all of these things. I think it would be, I have said this many times, I think it would be a moral failing of mine if people meet me in person and they're like, oh, he is so different in person. Like, oh, and I've heard this many times about like people that have this really brusque online persona of like the no man or like the realist or like, I'm going to tell you the truth. And then you meet them in person and they're like, just like this, the nicest person in the world, but they play a character online. I don't think that is right for me. And so anything that you see online is like true and authentic to how I am in person. I will say again, we take these parts of our personalities that I hope are true and authentic, and we turn them up to be like expressed through compressed mediums, right? So through text, it's hard to express the entirety of one's personality. So we turn it up a little bit so that through that lossy compression, it comes out the other side, right? So in real life, I am always, I grew up on Seinfeld. And when I say I grew up on Seinfeld, like me and my brother, we watched Seinfeld every single night. Often it was like a 10:30, 11 or 10:30, and we would watch two of them back to back every single night. And so like I was steeped in this like quick, witty, like throwaway jokes. You run past it, you make a little comment, you do a little what have you ever noticed? And like you just kind of like keep going, right? And so in my videos and primarily on Twitter, in those mediums, I'm oftentimes looking for like a silly, like quick turn of phrase. I think if people here incorporate humor, they like go for the big joke and then like kind of, like look around for the laughs, and it's like, oh, that's not gonna work. Like that's not gonna work on video. You have to keep the pace going. But I do find that like a big part of my IRL personality is humor and is wittiness and is banter. And so I definitely try to express that in videos. And it's fun. And this is like a technical note. It's fun because I don't record with a script. I record with like a bullet point or like a outline or something like that. And so as I'm recording, I will hear jokes come out of my mouth, and I'm like, oh, it's pretty good. I didn't see that one coming, and you just keep going. But that is because that's my natural state of being. And that's actually one of the reasons I don't script, is because if I script, it comes out very stilted and very like, and now we will move to this file. And it's like, I'm bored giving the talk. I can't imagine anybody listening to it. And so, I think it is also, there's a real desire for people on the internet to pedestal people who are public, right? To make gurus out of them and say like, oh, this person comes down from the mountain with the tablets. And it's like, hey, y'all, whoa. hang on, I am just a guy. I'm just a guy on the internet trying to make it. I got 4 kids to feed. Like, I am just a guy. And I find that not taking yourself too seriously helps communicate, like, hey, I'm out here with you. I'm one of you. We're all the same. We're all on the same team here. Whereas you'll see a lot of like, love him or hate him, I don't prefer his content. Sahil Bloom tweets a lot of really pithy, like, wisdom quotes, and I'm like, I don't relate to you at all. And it's like these one-liners that you can tell he scheduled in Buffer like 2 weeks ago, and it's like, you're just kind of above us. You're just floating in the atmosphere, dropping your wisdom on us. And I don't ever want to be that. Like, I want to be with the people that I care about, that I'm teaching. And I find that expressing that humor kind of like reminds people, whoa, hey, we're all in this together.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing, and then I'll let Patrick speak. So I love that you're a Seinfeld fan, and maybe in a follow-up, I'll share a picture. I have a framed Larry David picture in my house. So my wife thought that was very weird when she came first. But yeah, I really appreciate it.
Man. No, I watched all of Seinfeld, and then I watched all of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Larry David is hysterical. He's a genius. So congratulations. Tell your wife it's very impressive.
I will.
I'll add, so Aaron, I rarely disagree with our guests, but I realized we are different people where I script every single word because
there you go.
I just, until I know a thing so deeply, like until I practice it 20 times, I will just keep always stumbling over words. And so I really need to write down every word. And then as soon as I start stumbling over thing, I will rewrite it and then, rephrase it in the video, edit out the first 2 or 3 bad takes and then have the better take written down. So it's also interesting that it seems like we have very different styles in how we make things. And I'm sure there's pros and cons to each, but anyways, any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So here's my workflow for that, because in that regard, we're not terribly different. Like, I have to do the thing to know what the thing is going to be, which is really frustrating, right? And so some people express that through scripting, which I find very painful. This also, some of like, this dictates how I record. I end up like throwing a bunch of stuff away, and that tends to be okay because I do it so quickly. But my hack is this. I will open a Google Doc, and nowadays there's transcription everywhere, but Google Docs has transcription built in, right? So you just open a Google Doc, and instead of like turning on the lights and, getting all pretty and putting on the black t-shirt to like, let's record a video, I'll open a Google Doc and I'll sit here in the dark with my microphone, and I'll pretend as if I'm recording the video. Like, I'll pretend like, all right, first thing we're going to do is this, and it's like transcribing it next to me. And then that counts in my mind. That counts as like my first take. And so then I look at the transcript and I'm like, boy, that chunk really should go first, shouldn't it? And I'll like move the transcript around and like change kind of how that flow worked. And then what I do is I like read it, I squint my eyes, I read it really hard, and then I close it and I start recording the video. So now what I've done is I've already given the video once, like I've recorded it once, and then I reviewed the transcript and was like, well, that sucked. I need to change that. And then I read the transcript again, and then I turn on the lights and I'm like, all right, here we go. And it's like, hey, this is your second run. I still end up doing, 2, 3, 4, 5 takes. But that first bar of like, what am I gonna say, is a lot easier when you're just saying it to a Google Doc instead of like, it's record video time, you better do a good job. And so that kind of lowers the pressure on me just a little bit.
Fantastic. And I'm sure it's very natural if you're not trying something, you are just speaking, and it's just naturally going to come out, and that's what's going to be in the transcript, and then you're going to review the transcript and do the second, third take. Love it.
Yeah, I actually do the opposite. I build a script for prep and then like go completely off it. Like when I actually do something, right? When I do public speaking or like stuff like that. But I kind of do the script for like my psychological safety, right? That I basically re-explain to me that I want to say, but like when you like read it again and see, it's completely different.
Top of funnel content is all about getting attention. You don't want to be too specific or too technical. Instead, you want to intrigue the general public by making content tangential to the zeitgeist. Aaron gives some great pointers on top of funnel content in a few minutes. I guess we have lots of people who watch the show and they just do different, like all the people who make software do lots of different things. What features or issues are good things to cover in screencasting? So you're excited about screencasting, you want to dip your toe into it, maybe get some new customers, put it up on YouTube. What would you recommend that people cover?
Yeah, so I think there's it kind of depends on what the goal is. So you can have a top of funnel, like you can have videos as top of funnel, you can have videos as middle or bottom of funnel, right? So you can say like, all right, we're getting a ton of people in the door. We're getting a ton of people in the door, and then they just churn out because they don't know how to use the thing. So in that scenario, I would say like, let's make some videos that show people how to do cool things with your software. And that is different than let's make some videos that show people your software exists, right? So those are serving very different parts of the funnel, and they're serving very different people, and therefore the content must be very different. So we'll start at the top of the funnel. I think if you're trying to get attention, you need to cast the widest net possible, right? And so if we're talking about, let's say, an area that I know very well, if we're talking about databases and you're trying to get attention, you don't want to talk about the esoteric way that indexes are implemented in the engine, right? Because you're trying to get people to like click on a video and learn about like the fact that your company exists. And so that is probably a bad choice for like a top of funnel video. A good top of funnel video for, let's say, a database company is like, watch me do this bizarre thing with databases. Watch me, like there's something in the culture and then like the conversation, like I can like tangentially tie that to databases. Watch me do this clever party trick with SQL. Right. And at that point, casual people are like, a party trick with SQL. That's interesting. Let me click on that. Oh, this is a very clever trick. Oh, there's a company that exists that hosts databases. Now you're in the space, you're in the mind share. I think something that a lot of companies do wrong is they make videos that would be perfect for middle or bottom of funnel and expect them to perform like top of funnel. And then when they get 150 views, they're super bummed out. And they're like, we're cutting our video. And I'm like, whoa. Maybe those 150 people were people that already use the product and were going to churn. And now they're like, oh, great. That's very helpful. So that is a very valuable video. But if you're judging it on top of funnel metrics, where you're saying like, we need 10,000 people to watch this video and learn about our company, you're going to have to make different kinds of videos. So top of funnel would be like, how broad, like, can you use your tool to do something fun or silly or in the cultural conversation or a part of the zeitgeist or something like that? Like, is there a way that you can attach your Notion, whatever, to some sort of, thing that is happening out in the world? And like, Notion is actually an easy example for that, because, the Oscars come around and you can be like, let's build an Oscars bingo card in Notion. And it's like, I don't really care about Notion, but like, I like the Oscars. I like software. Let me see what they're doing. Oh, this person has a course on Notion mastery or whatever. It's like, okay, we're kind of like, we're casting a super wide net. Then, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel is like, hey, you're in here and like, you want to do this specific thing. Let me show you how to drive this car so fast and take these corners so tight that you are going to be the best driver on the internet, right? And that's where you can give people the superpowers, right? Because inside of every company, there's that one girl or guy that is like the Microsoft Excel wizard, right? And everybody wants to be a wizard. Everybody wants to know like, how to do something really well, really fast, really efficiently. But more than that, they want people to think of them as very smart, right? Everybody wants everyone else to perceive them as like a smart, capable, like productive individual. And so once you like get down more into like the funnel, you can get deeper into the software and be like, hey, did you know in Excel or in Notion or in whatever, you can do this wild thing. Like watch me do this formula that is going to make this like open this world of possibilities to you. And that's when you're giving your users these like superpowers that are, yes, superpowers in software, but also social superpowers, because then they can go to their coworkers or they can go on their Twitter and be like, haha, look how smart I am. And then that's like, you're giving them exactly what they want, which is this feeling of competence that they can then exude to the rest of the world.
Very much reminds me of Dan Pink's book Drive. He talks about people always want to, one of the 3 drives is mastery. People love getting better at things, and maybe looking smart's a little bit different than that, but there's some connection there. So Aaron, let me ask you this then. I always want to give people the advice, try this for this amount of time, and if you don't see this, then try a different marketing channel. So if I was to say, let me just say, I don't know, 50% of software businesses should try screencasting or some sort of video as a marketing channel. Like, how long would you recommend? Like, 3 months, 10 videos? Like, where's like a point where you go, maybe I'm just not good at this. Maybe I'm not the someone who's charismatic on camera. Like, or what signals would you look to proceed and keep doing videos? Or what signals would you look for? Maybe this isn't the medium for you. Let's try something different.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think there is some aspect of, I think maybe every marketing channel, but at least of video, where it's like you basically have to alert the market / your audience that like, hey, we do video now. And that's going to be a little bit of a slow build. And that's on like the awareness side, but on like the internal side, as the person doing the video, you also have to get up to speed. You also have to be like, okay, I do video now. And there's it's like I don't know what it would be like, but it builds up over time, is this resistance to doing video. And so if you do a video once a month, it is going to be very hard to do a video, because in that, like, you do a video on the 1st of the month, and then throughout the month, all the way up to the 31st, you're like, oh man, I forgot how to do video. Video's really hard. Video's really scary. And then you have to overcome that massive amount of resistance at the beginning of the next month to be like, how do I do a video? I forgot. This is terrifying. I hate it. If you do a video every other day, it just becomes like, hey, I'm doing another video. Like, the resistance hasn't had enough time to build up to this insurmountable point where it's like, boy, video's terrifying, isn't it? And so my advice for a company that is like, hey, we want to get into video is, probably 3 to 6 months, and at least a video a week. And my encouragement on that advice is your goal, your job, you can consider it a job well done if you published the video. That's it. So like in that time, you are not looking at, yes, of course, look at metrics to learn and inform and be like, well, the algorithm, i.e. the people liked this one, they didn't like this one. We got a lot of comments on this one. We got no interaction on that one. Take that all as like signal. But the judgment of failure or success stops the moment you put out the video and you can count yourself as a success. That is the bar. The bar is not put out a video, get 10,000 views, make a ton of money, retire. The bar is, did you do the work? Did you do the thing? And a part of like doing the thing is hitting the publish button. And that is the most terrifying part. But once you've done that, you can log off. You did your job. Now you can learn from the things and like do your job better the next time. But for the first 3 to 6 months, your only job is to put out the best content that you can put out and then be super happy that you put it out. That's kind of it. And it will take time to show up on your internal dashboards or whatever. And I would say again that you have to know what problem you're solving, because if you're solving a top of funnel problem, you're judging very different things after that 3 to 6 months. If you're solving like a churn or an engagement or whatever, what you're really looking for at that point is like feedback. You're not looking for views. You're looking for like people commenting and saying, oh, I didn't know I could do that with, Workday or whatever it is. I didn't know I could do that with your tool. That's very helpful. And so after that, after that period of like, my job is to put stuff out, then you start judging it on results, and you have to separate. Not maybe separate, but you have to know what you're trying to do. Because if you don't know what you're trying to do, you can judge yourself as a success or a failure either way, and you may just be super wrong because you didn't know what you were trying to do. And so that again comes back to top of funnel, middle of funnel.
Yeah, I think like what is really interesting, we are talking here about overcoming obstacles such as, building confidence to commit to a publishing cadence, taking your like face in front of the camera and demonstrating your expertise. I actually know a lot of people who are very knowledgeable in multiple different topics, but a lot of them shy away from recording themselves because they feel they lack storytelling, right? Storytelling is really hard for them. They think like, if I just record a video of like, here is how to do X to achieve Y, they don't think that's compelling enough. And to a certain extent, I agree. We need to contextualize everything and just put it like into an interesting and digestible narrative that goes beyond personality. So I'm guessing if you speak to people about this all the time, like what are some of the fundamentals to kind of pick up storytelling, and how big of a part does that play in just regular screencasting?
Yeah, I think that is a common objection, and so I have 2 points on that, as I do on everything. I've got many points. So my first point is, you are correct when you say some of the most knowledgeable people that that I know, that we all know, don't publish anything ever. And I will be careful again to say that that is not a bad or good. That is just reality. Like you do not have to dance for the audience. You do not have to like put yourself out there for the market. Like you're not a slave to what you see other people doing. Like if you want to lead a quiet life and work with your hands and like be the genius at your company that never publishes anything, that is amazing. And I'm so happy for you. But I will say, if you want to be the person that publishes something, you are automatically promoted to the top like 1% of people's minds just by publishing something. And it's not fair, but it is true that people who are public get more credit. It is not fair at all, but it is true. And if it is true, how can you use that to your advantage? You can start writing blog posts. You can start doing screencasts. You can start being public, and people will ascribe to you a certain status that you even maybe don't feel like is worthy of yourself. But they're like, oh, Aaron has a podcast. And I'm like, y'all, anyone can have a podcast. It is very easy to have a podcast, but it is unfair that people who are public get more credit assigned to them. So that's my encouragement. Like, if you feel that desire to like be out there getting opportunities, jobs, podcast invites, courses, whatever, just be public. That's a great start. Now, the question that I haven't answered yet, the question is, what do we do about storytelling, right? So I think the most defensible and airtight way to tell a story or to communicate is to share your personal experience, right? Because what I can do is I can say, I had this problem. I tried this and this and this, and I'm going to take you on that journey. None of those things worked. I felt like an idiot. And then I discovered this, and look how freaking cool this fifth thing is. And what people can't refute at that point is, no, that didn't happen. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It did happen. That is true. And I think a trap that people fall into is trying to skip over the journey that they went on to arrive at the thing that finally worked and jump to the thing that finally worked and teach it as if they are the expert on the thing that finally worked. And like, what I want to know from the people that I am learning from is show me the false starts, show me the parts that didn't work, tell me the frustration, because you know who's been frustrated? Me. You know who's tried a bunch of stupid stuff that I thought would work and it didn't work? Me. So show me that like learning process, tell me that narrative, going back to like story, tell me that structure of, I was encountering this performance issue and I thought I knew the answer. Here's what I tried. Turns out that made it worse. Bummer. Let's keep going. That's a story. Like, that is a story. You don't have to make up a story. You just have to tell the story of what actually happened. And again, I think weirdly, it can go back to Seinfeld, where everything is just like this happened, little story, little anecdote, little aside, and you just keep moving. And I think the an underlying structure that is available to everyone without studying storytelling or anything like that, an underlying structure that is available to everyone is your life. What happened? Tell me what happened. Of course, there are parts of like style and structure where you can like make the story that is true more interesting. That is totally a thing. Tons of books, tons of videos, everything has been written about telling story. But I think the baseline structure with which no one can argue is, I had this problem and I found this solution. And like, that is the structure of a story. I had a problem and I solved it. I am man and I overcame. And it's like, that's the story. And so I think people get really hung up on how do I tell a story, and fail to realize that like, you lived it. You lived the story. Tell me the hero's journey of the database went down to you fixed the query. That's the hero's journey. As lame as it sounds, that's the hero's journey. Tell me that.
I don't think it's lame. I actually think it's very intelligent, because it puts another like layer of authenticity. So you're not this like ultra smart being that was like born knowledgeable, right? And so like if you kind of present it like that, there's like an immediate detachment from the audience who is struggling. And I think this actually like helps with connection and authenticity. So yeah, great point.
Yep. Agreed. Let me go back. I want to say one thing about an answer you gave a couple minutes ago, and then I have another question for you. No, going back, you said something about you're not entitled to like the views of your videos, and it just reminded me of the Bhagavad Gita. It's ancient yoga text, but they say you're not entitled to the fruits of your labor, just the labor itself. And I always like when people tie something to like some sort of ancient wisdom. So I love that. Let me go on to, I did want to ask a new question. We are getting near the end here. I feel like we have to talk a little bit about channels, because there's obviously YouTube, and we had someone on earlier in this season that does like 3-hour tutorials on YouTube. So YouTube can be like really long and in depth, which is incredible. It can also be like 20-minute videos, or as we talked about earlier, 4 to 7-minute videos. But there's of course TikTok, Reels, YouTube Shorts. Would you recommend someone? Would you recommend someone try Shorts, or do you make a long video and then cut it down into Shorts? How do you navigate that world, and what channels do you explore first?
Yeah, super interesting, because I think I have a pointed point of view on this. I primarily identify as an individual. I primarily identify as an educator. The medium that I educate through primarily is video. So that immediately leads people to think, oh, you're a YouTuber or you're a TikToker. And it's like, yeah, sure, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But in my heart, I'm an educator, right? And so this goes back to the conversation we had briefly about thumbnails, right? The platform dictates the packaging, whether you like it or not. Neil Postman said the medium is the message. Like, in a way, that is true about YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and your own self-hosted stuff. The platform dictates the packaging. And so what I mean by that is as an educator, I don't like that going on YouTube, I'm hit with a bunch of pretend faux shock about things that are very normal that I will discover 30 minutes into the video. Oh, it was just a normal thing. Like, that drives me crazy, right? Again, I have a certain line that I won't cross, but I still have to be sensitive to what the platform demands out of me. And if I don't want to play the game, that's fine, but I can't be frustrated if I lose, right? If I don't want to play the YouTube meta game, that is 100% within your rights to decide that, and you might lose, and you can't be mad that people who are doing these other games are winning. Like, you just decided not to play, and so you lost. That's fine. And so what channels do I use? I only use long form YouTube and self-hosted course platforms. And there's a reason for that, because I have not found a way, which is not to say that it doesn't exist. I have not found a way to effectively communicate some sort of educational piece in 30 to 60 seconds. I've tried it a couple of times with database stuff, and it's kind of fun and it kind of works. But it's like, I don't think people are actually getting anything out of this. Now, if you are making entertainment, by all means, you can do something funny, and you can do something funny in 6 seconds. Rest in peace, Vine. That was a great platform. It was hysterical. But trying to teach someone like how to use a database index in even 60 seconds is like, woof, I don't know if this is going to work. So for me, the platforms that I like are, and they're very different, and I'll explain how, but the platforms that I like are long form YouTube and self-hosted courses. And even those two things are fundamentally different. When I have a person on a platform that I own, I know that they are there to learn the thing that I am teaching. And so my the need for me to be hysterical or like infotainment, that need goes down quite a bit. I don't have to be as can you believe that I'm about to do this? Because I know that they're in my little walled garden. They're sitting there. They're watching 8 hours of videos about databases. This is a serious person. I don't have to continually shock and awe them. And so when I'm teaching a course, I don't have that pull to be like, do something crazy. Of course, I want it to be watchable, entertaining, compelling, fast-paced, whatever. But it's not like, I'm going to blow your minds. It's like, okay, let's learn the ins and outs of this thing. On YouTube, I can still be educational, but I do have to have an eye towards, let's do something crazy, because people normally are like, hey, I'm sitting down at lunch. I want to watch a video, and it's me or it's Mr. Beast. And it's like, I got to do something crazy, right? Like, I'm up against the best creators in the world. And of course, some people sit down at lunch and they want to watch database videos, and God bless them. That is wonderful for me. But still, even amongst database videos, it's me versus a bunch of other people. And so I always, based on what the platform dictates, I have to have an eye towards what do people expect when they show up here. So that's the question I think you take to any new channel is, what do people expect when they show up to this platform? When you show up to LinkedIn, you expect something different than when you show up to Twitter. And honestly, you expect something different when you show up to Blue Sky. Those three things have an individual personality, and they're all very different. And as a creator, you have to observe the platform dispassionately and say, what does the platform demand? And am I willing to do it? And if so, how far am I willing to go into what that platform specifically demands?
Love it. This has been very educational. I've learned a ton, Aaron, France. You have one of those names that's two first names. So besides that, you've done a lot of incredible stuff. You built courses, you run the studio, you've created countless videos. Any last pieces of advice for software makers who want to become better advocates for their products?
Yeah, I would say to software makers that want to become better advocates, you are inherently, because you made the thing, you are inherently or perhaps uniquely qualified to advocate for your solution. And I think you should go out there. This is my opinion. You should go out there and you should advocate for the thing that you care about. And oftentimes that is the software that you created. So go out there, be 100% yourself, turned up a little bit. So be 110% yourself, and go out there and just share the things you care about with hopefully what will be a growing audience finding your software.
Fantastic. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your thoughts. And thanks to our listeners for tuning in. Now, we didn't have a ton of time to talk about screencasting.com on this episode, but please do check out Aaron's course. I researched a lot of the questions for this episode by checking out screencasting.com. So go ahead and check that out. Speaking of this episode, if you like this episode, like, subscribe, and tell your friends so we can carry on enticing awesome and influential guests like Aaron to join us and share their remarkable journeys. If you subscribe through the Plugin.fm website, you will get early bird access to our future content, which you will not want to miss this season. Plugin.fm is brought to you by Freemius, your all-in-one payment, subscription, and taxes platform for selling software plugins, themes, and software as a service. If you're struggling to grow your software revenue, send a note to contact@freemius.com to get free advice from Freemius' monetization experts. My name is Patrick Rolland, and thanks for listening to Plugin.fm.